Assalamu alaikum, this is Gitiara from Centrist Nation, and today we have with us Professor Dr. Maszlee Bin Malik. He is the chairman of International Institute of Advanced Islamic Studies. He is also the former Education Minister of Malaysia. Hello sir, how are you?
Very good, alhamdulillah.
How has your day been throughout this conference?
I've always been inside the hall. I haven't got the opportunity to browse around Dhaka yet.
Okay sir, it's an honor to be able to interview you today.
Honor is mine.
So here's my first question. Malaysia has faced its own democratic struggles with coalition instability. Bangladesh too is at a political crossroad. From your perspective, what are the lessons that Bangladesh can learn from Malaysia's experience with democratic transitions?
After the July 7, definitely Bangladesh is facing a new crossroad in shaping its own future. Malaysia may not fortunate enough to enjoy that experience, but at least there were a few incidents or a few experience of transitions of power. I mean, in 2018, there was for the very first time the change of government in Malaysia, and I was lucky enough to be one of the government ministers then under the premiership of Mahathir Mohamad. But what we were facing then was the expectation of the people. You know, when there is a change, people want things to happen overnight. They want things to change, totally by the next morning. And that is impossible. There are things that you can change overnight, definitely, but it's too little. I mean, a lot of things requires efforts, requires readjustments of things, requires efforts and, let me say, patience for most. So, as for Bangladesh, what I can say is pay more attention on structural reform. That is what Bangladesh needs more.
Speaking of education, since you have an expertise in that sector, I would like to ask, what kind of educational reform, in your eyes, from your perspective, do you think Bangladesh should work on immediately?
The most immediate part is to have a thorough look into the curriculum. You need to make sure whatever you aspire Bangladesh to be in the next 10 or 20 years, the mapping of the education system must follow it accordingly. So the first thing that should be restructured is the curriculum, the extra curriculum, and mentality. You must push for critical thinking, analytical thinking, and inquisitive lifestyle among the students. This could be start as soon as possible. I mean, we must get away from this traditional rotting system and traditional exam-based system. And I think the most important part, before we go to everything, we must start with the accessibility. So the access to quality education must be there. Whatever government comes into the picture after the election, I hope that education reform should be on the top priority, and they must invest a lot in open the access, in open the opportunities for all Bangladeshis to enjoy quality education. And of course, Malaysia and myself, we are more than ready to offer our service to help to build this new Bangladesh.
So we've seen that ASEAN has been struggling to resolve the Myanmar crisis, while Malaysia once played significant role in resolving conflicts, especially the Cambodia-Thailand ceasefire. Do you think ASEAN is a credible platform for peace, or do you think it has lost its effectiveness?
Definitely ASEAN has its own uniqueness when it comes to this dynamism of conflict and peace. Yes, we dealt with few conflicts that's still ongoing, but some of them have been sorted out. For example, the southern Philippines conflict. Now, you could see a relative peace in the southern region of Philippines, the Bangsamoro region. They've been given the autonomy. You can see Aceh, a crisis in Indonesia, although it's very internal, but it has been solved, I mean, for more than a decade. You can see the Indonesia crisis with Timor-Leste and other parts. And the recent one, the conflict between Thailand and Cambodia, that Malaysia was very fortunate enough to broker a deal for a peace or for a ceasefire. But coming to Rohingya, there must be a reciprocity. Myanmar must be ready for that. They must be ready to come for a long-term solution for it. And ASEAN definitely, under the leadership of the current Prime Minister of Malaysia, now Malaysia is a chairman of ASEAN.
Yes.
We has given our commitment to find a long-term solution, a more feasible solution for Myanmar crisis. And for that, we must never neglect Bangladesh.
My last question for you is a very critical one. We know that we have resigned as the Malaysian Education Minister after the political pressure. How do you think that intellectual independence and reformist politics can survive in environments where political compromise is dominating?
I think one thing about academia, one thing about knowledge, one thing about intellectual, it has its own dynamism. I mean, it keeps itself alive. Regardless of the political situation, the economic situation, it continued to strive by itself. So, for example, in Malaysia, with this new government that we had, after how many governments that we have gone through, after 2018, now is very promising. The education reform began to take its place, although it's not as rigorous as it's supposed to be as what I tried to do 6 years ago. But I have an optimistic view that education reform will take place and academia will be honored as it's supposed to be in Malaysia, and there'll be a lot of changes when it comes to the intelligentsia universe in Malaysia.
We also see the US-China rivalry going on, and we're like stuck. Bangladesh is stuck in a tug of war between these negotiations going on. Given that we've taken a 20% tariff from the States, how do you think it would impact us and our relationship with Malaysia? How it would be positively effective to, move forward in the future with this tariff?
Yeah, one thing talking about this tariff war, what they call it, or the rivalry between these two superpowers, we must put in our mind that we must never allow any unipolar world to come back again. Whether it is US or China or not, no. It is a time for multipolar world. It is a time for multipolar, that we say, geopolitics. But Bangladesh need to align itself. So this is where I did mention in my talk earlier about Global South cooperation, and I reiterated a lot about cooperation with ASEAN, and I think this is a time for the multipolar world. Bangladesh will not be as strong as it would be if it stands alone, but if it stands with the right alliances, with honest, let we say, friends, it will thrive.
Inshallah. Thank you, sir. It was wonderful talking with you. Thank you to our audience for tuning in.